Welcome to the Biscuit Book Club on Joy 620 WRJZ, featuring Marcy and Shelley. Today, conversation will build you up in the faith and encourage you to do what God has called you to do. Brought to you by Simplify Hauling. And now, let's go to the studio with Marcy.
Welcome to the Biscuit Book Club, y'all. We're serving up stories with Southern charm. I'm Shelley.
And I'm Marcy, and we are so excited about today's guest. I don't know about you, but I have loved the changing of seasons. And have you baked anything with pumpkin or ginger yet, Shelley?
No, I have not. I did bake a turkey this week, though.
Oh, okay. I guess that's kind of seasonal. I just baked ginger snaps. It's the first ginger snaps of the season because we have a guest that we're going to be calling a little bit later, and she's the author of A Gingerbread House, which is absolutely adorable. In fact, I even told my husband, I said, you know what, why don't we have our grandkids over, and we're going to have a cousin Christmas Kringle time, and we're going to make gingerbread houses just like this, but in order to get ready, I did make some ginger snaps that I brought into the studio, and I can smell them from here. They are so amazing. I love that spicy.
That sounds yummy.
Yeah, you can smell that ginger, the ginger, the cloves. Oh, all the goodness. I just love it.
And you use real ginger.
I do use real ginger, and then also and then of course, just baked with love. That's all I have to say. But. Anyway, we are going to be talking today with Julie Lavender, and it's fun because I love how the Lord weaves people together. It's kind of like baking, actually. It's just all the different ingredients, and I feel like that's sometimes what the Lord does for us. He brings all these ingredients together. He brings nutmeg and ginger and molasses, and we create something amazing, and that's what He does, I feel like, with some of our friendships. Is that He brings different people together and He just creates something just magical. And I met Julie in person last year at the Vision Conference, which you and I are planning to attend this next year. They already opened up registration. I was just listening to our podcast with Robin Miller the other day and just laughing about that again. But I also met Julie face to face. And you know how sometimes I love social media and the fact that we can meet new people, but then it feels like we already have met them.
Yeah.
And then
I love that too, because I feel like you meet people on Instagram and you start talking back and forth, and you have the writing in common and loving books or whatever it is for you, and then you feel like you know them already.
You do, and then I knew Julie's name was familiar to me because she writes for Guideposts and I write for Guideposts, so we have that connection. But I had no idea that she has like 37 books out right now, and she's working on another 12 with her husband. They're doing some educational, which is totally, you think of how writers stay in their lane, and we've talked about this a couple times where they are always saying, stay in your lane, and we've mentioned there's some people who don't even stay in the pool because they are so out of their lane, and I would have to say Julie might be a open water swimmer as far as that goes, because she doesn't stay in her lane as far as just writing articles. She has written a lot of great books. And one of those that I've really loved, besides just the Gingerbread House for kids, was she has written some also on motherhood, and I love that. So anyway, it was so fun at the conference to meet her face to face. But why don't we give her a call?
We'll give her a call.
She's maybe baking gingerbread houses right now. I don't know.
And she has a grandbaby, doesn't she?
She does.
Hello.
Hey, Julie, this is Marcy.
Hi, I'm Shelley.
Marcy. Hey.
Hey, Doc, how are you guys?
We're doing great. We were talking about how the seasons are changing right now, and I just brought in ginger snaps, and just how much we have also loved how the Lord has put people together to create something wonderful, kind of like friendship, but also just the changing of seasons. We're kind of excited about the changing of seasons. So,
I'm loving it. You know, I'm in South Georgia, and we don't always have what I consider the real true changing of seasons, but it is beautifully cool this morning. It was only 64 when I went for my prayer walk this morning, and that's good for us this time of year. I'm loving this change of season.
Mm-hmm. And I love having another Southern gal on the show.
That's great. I love it. I love it.
Now, are you from Georgia, Julie?
I am. This is my hometown. We're back in our hometown, and I went to high school here, met my hubby in high school. We were high school sweethearts, college sweethearts, and we finished our college education, and he got a degree. He got his master's in entomology, and I said, now, what are we going to do in this little tiny town in Statesboro, Georgia, with an entomology degree? And he said, honey, I think we may have to leave town. Well, I pitched a fit. In the South, we call it a little hissy fit. And I pitched a fit about leaving. So we were gone for 20 years in the Navy, loved every minute of it. God just showed us his big, beautiful world. But then when David retired from the Navy and got a job with an Army as a wildlife biologist, we came back here. So we're back in our hometown.
Okay. So then he went from 20 years to being a wildlife biologist in your hometown. Like,
that's
wow.
Right. Now he drove to an Army installation that's an hour away, and he served as a wildlife biologist there. That's right.
Wow. Which countries have you lived in?
We've only lived here. He has traveled to so many places, but we lived in Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, Virginia, California, and Washington State.
Wow. Mm. Well, that's like going to a different country almost.
I know some of those were. Listen, when you take this girl from the South over to California and Washington, we thought we were in another country. I kept saying I'd go to a restaurant and I'd say I want some water to drink, and they'd say, you want to order what now? And I had to learn to say water.
Yeah. Yeah, Shelley and I have been laughing about that because I'm from California who just moved here, and the first time somebody asked if I wanted a buggy at the grocery store, I'm like, what? I'm not Amish. Like, I don't know if I need a buggy.
Horse and buggy? What are you talking about? No, we call grocery carts buggies.
Yeah. And then make pictures. I'm going to make a picture versus take a picture. And I'm like, so yes. I just have visions of like art supplies. Every time they tell me they're going to make a picture, I'm like, okay, so how long will that take? Like, so, okay, you're just going to do it with your phone. Okay, I got it. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And my friend in Alabama, she was going to take us to the wedding, and she said, I'm going to carry you to the wedding. And I was like, okay, you're going to carry us to the wedding? But that's what they say.
The other one I had to the other thing I had to give up when I was moving around because people just laughed hysterically. Everything I was going to do, I was fixing to do it. I wasn't just going to do it, but I was fixing. I'm fixing to go to the store. I'm fixing to cook dinner. I don't know why I wasn't just going to cook dinner, but I was fixing to. That's exactly what we said.
And then when I came in, I was talking to Bob Bell, and he said, you don't mind to. If you don't mind to do that. Yeah. And I was like, do I not do it? Which one is that? I do care or I don't care? Like, I'm not sure which one that is. Like, I don't mind. Do you mind to do that? No, I don't mind. Or you don't mind. Would that be a no? Or I don't know. So it's just those little things. So, but we did live in Minnesota for 9 years, and that was, I think that's the thing, too, is cultures can be different everywhere. And you can enjoy it so much, but you do have to respect the fact that that is their culture, and you are a guest into their culture. And so I love that you can, like when you talked on Focus on the Family about your book for 365 Days to Love Your Child, I love how you really did talk about being intentional with your kids on exposing them to different cultures. And you talked about seeing somebody who was homeless and how that impacted your child. And I love the fact that you were able to take those teachable moments. And so for this season of, the seasons are changing with the weather and with what we're eating as far as cookies. But also the seasons are changing for you and I, because we are grandmas now. That's a new season.
Right.
And so I just love the fact that you kept talking about being intentional. And so I know Shelley has some questions about strength for seasons, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the fact that I really hope that you do 365 ways to love your grandchildren.
Oh, that should be next. Oh, my goodness, I hadn't even thought about that.
Except for one thing, and that is that I got the audiobook of 365 Days to Love Your Child, and I have to say, as much as I was enjoying that, I really think that you should narrate it as well in your Southern accent.
Oh, wow.
It makes me just want to.
Oh, wow, with my Southern accent.
I loved it. I would love it. I would just love it. That's my request. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll
talk to my publisher.
We talk about, she mentioned strength for all seasons, and you talk about the seasons of motherhood. First, what do you think's the toughest age for you as raising children? Now you have a grandchild, so your children are raised. But what would you say is the toughest age?
Gosh, you know what? I wonder. That is a good question. But I wonder if it would, I think first, everybody's first response might be, right before tween, preteen, and teenagers. But my children, I was very blessed. They were faithful in church and godly teenagers. So I was very blessed that we didn't have any kind of major teenage issues that I had to deal with. But I do remember I had two boys, two girls, and they're in the order of boy, girl, boy, girl. So my oldest daughter, she had a few hormone issues and was, eye rolling was her thing. And so if that was as serious as it got, we were actually pretty good. But she just eye rolled, and she just kind of, the eye roll said to me, my mother's an idiot. And She was wonderful. She truly was. But she had her moments. So the other one, my youngest one, she would have only been about, 8 or 9 or something like that. And she started an attitude. She was my little dancer. So she started a little attitude. And I remember saying to her, I said, listen, God only gives you a certain amount of hormones. And if you use all of them up right now while you're only 9 or 10, you don't get to roll your eyes and do things like Jennifer did when she was a teenager. So you're done. Your hormones are done. And she believed me for the longest time. But, later we laughed about that. But honestly, you know what? Sometimes it might be hard to parent adult children because you see the things they're going through, whether it's financial struggles, whether it's the loss of a job, whether they're and you know what? I've always said I liked it when they were little and they got hurt. I could put a Band-Aid on that. When they get a little bit older and their hearts are hurt, you can't hardly put a Band-Aid on that. You can love them and encourage them, but it's harder to Band-Aid a heart than it is a skinned knee. So to be honest, I don't know if it was either the teenage years or adulthood.
Yeah. I agree. I think parenting adults is the hardest and you go from raising these children, giving them advice, teaching them, and then all of a sudden they're adults and we had to learn to keep our mouth shut unless we are asked for advice. And just all the things you navigate, and when they get married, you have other family dynamics coming into the family, and just learning to embrace that and love that. And I think parenting adults can be the hardest.
Well,
I think so.
Then the narrative too, like they can look back and say, "You never did anything with me." It's like, are you kidding? Like it was all about you.
I know.
We never made gingerbread houses when we were growing up. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like it was all I could do just to get everybody's stockings filled. Are you kidding? So we only had so many good. And I was telling my husband, Julie, I said, oh my gosh, Julie and I feel like we are sisters from another mother because when you talked about resigning and writing a 3-page letter of resignation for your children, and just sometimes we get to the end and we're just like, I have had it. And you can always tell, you don't even move your lips. You're like, that is it, and they know that they are in trouble. And I just remember one time I was so frustrated with our kid, and it was at a conference. Somebody said, what keeps you from writing? And he's like, go ahead, shout it out. And I raised my hand. I'm like, he called on me. I said, laundry. And everyone was laughing. And when I got home, and he had said, you need to take charge of that. You need to let your family know what you need to do to write. And so when I got home, I got this wipe-off board, and I was going to, like, John Madden it, like, okay, so here we are, coming in hot. Here's the laundry room. Here's you. Here's me. And the kids were like, we are not doing that. We are not doing any of that. And my husband was like, honey, I don't think you're hitting the mark here. And I was so upset. I went for a walk, and I just came back, and I said, that's it. I'm going to stop writing. I'm done. It's not worth the hassle, and it's not worth the struggle. And so I'm done. This story will never get out. And then my kids we were listening to that conference on the CD, because that's how long ago it was. We were listening to it in the car, and the guy was really a great speaker. And he asked that question on the CD, and our kids heard me answer laundry. And they realized,
wow,
this is a pain point for Mom. She's not just kidding. And that changed everything. So I think I loved when you talked about resigning, but the thing I loved most was when you said, and I got a bigger lesson. So
sure did.
Can you share that just a little bit?
I can. It might have been this season right here, because I remember one of the things that frustrated me, because helping them make their fall festival costume for church. And I had done that, and I had done this, and I had done that, and I just felt like I wasn't appreciated. Now, talk about hormone issues. I think it was my problem the whole time. But I just felt so underappreciated. And it seems like they wanted, they were bragging on this friend's mom, and they did this, and I just felt like they didn't notice anything I did. So I did the same thing. I wrote this 3-page resignation letter, told them they were on their own. Now, the thing is, I think one might have even been in college. Oh, I think he was. So he was which was just across town. He was a driver. My daughter was a driver. So they could get to dance. But I told them I was not driving them anywhere. I wasn't cooking. They were in charge of their meals. And I only lasted, but I was just so arrogant. I had my shoulders, just bowed out. And then the more I thought about it, I don't remember what happened, but all of a sudden I was like, oh, my gosh, this is how I treat God. This is how I treat God. I do not appreciate the things he does for me. He can do good things for me over and over and over. And I'm like, thank you. Can you give me some more? I just realized I was the one who was so unappreciative and did not recognize all the good things God did for me. So I apologized to the kids. My 2-week resignation only lasted about a day and a half, maybe 2 days. And my husband was also helping take care of the kids. But it did have an impact on the kids. They did recognize that they needed to help a little bit more and needed to be a little bit more appreciative.
Mm-hmm. And I love the fact that you talk about being intentional with your kids. And I think now that you and I are in this different season of grandparenting, we can still be intentional. We just have to be intentional in how we support our children, raising their children. But I definitely think that being intentional is something, whether you are a mom in the season of motherhood or the season of hoping to be a mom or the season of being a grandmother, we can be intentional wherever we're at and with whatever we're doing by just taking a moment.
Mm-hmm. I cannot agree with that more. When that hit home was, and I think I've told this story before to somebody, but we were coming back from a vacation. I think we only had a couple of kids at that point, and we only could afford this vacation because they gave us a military discount. It was a big park down in Orlando, Florida. And we just, enjoyed a couple of days there. We were coming back, driving back, and I love to play the whole, what was your favorite this? What was your favorite that? And I think I said, what was your favorite part of the trip? And my oldest son thought for just a split second and then said, jumping from bed to bed in the hotel room. And I looked at my husband. I said, boy, we could have saved a lot of money. We could have just rented a hotel room somewhere and just let them jump on the beds. But the funny thing about that was they jumped on beds at home. I didn't even care if they jumped on beds. But it was the idea they had two beds close together. They could jump from one to the other. My husband and I got involved. We put the pillows on the floor so they wouldn't get hurt. We said, okay, these are the alligators. If you fall in the moat, the alligator might nibble on your toes. We got in the middle so they couldn't get. It was just, we had so much fun. But that one statement from him made me realize, it doesn't have to be a big moment, go to the park, go to Disney World kind of a moment. It can be just playing a game in the bedroom pretending pillows are alligators. And those moments are the ones that sometimes stick with our kids so much better than a big moment. Not that the big moments aren't fun, but you know what? We have to take advantage of those. If I'm always figuring out whether I've got more clothes to fold or supper to cook or something, I miss so many of those moments. And I just reminded myself, we have to enjoy these little moments with our kids and grandkids.
Yeah, sometimes it's
yesterday on the phone. Right, that's exactly right. Yesterday my daughter called me, the baby daughter, and she had the youngest daughter. She has a almost 1-year-old. And she's become fascinated with the phone, and she recognizes my voice. And so when my daughter was talking to her, she kind of wanted the phone. I spent the next 20 minutes with an 11-month-old just making conversation while my daughter did a little bit in the kitchen. And you know how it is. They drag around the phone. They give you vertigo because they're playing with the phone, and you're dizzy by the time you're trying to watch. And, my 11-month-old is not going to remember that, but I took the 10 minutes to have that fun time with her. My daughter, I hope, will appreciate the fact that she was able to get a few things done, and my granddaughter just had a blast, and so did I.
Love that. And listeners, if you just tuned in, we are talking with Julie Lavender, and she has written she's written 37 books, and we've been talking about a gingerbread house. And she's a Southern girl, so I'm loving this, hearing another Southern girl.
Well,
it's always fun.
And then you and your husband just had a book come out this year in March.
That's right. It's called Raising Good Sons, Christian Parenting Principles. Oh, gosh, it's a long title. For faith and character. I think I left a word out there. We had a blast doing that, and we made sure we said in the intro, we said, listen, we do not consider ourselves perfect in any way. We made so many mistakes, and some of the little devotionals, I shared some of those little incidents. But I said, but through prayer and God's blessings and just knowing that God is the ultimate parent, He is the one that's in charge, and just hanging on to Him. There were days that I felt like, if my children were dressed and fed and back in bed at night, that's all I accomplished some days. But, and we did enjoy that. And there's one thing I always try to tell parents, give yourself grace. We talk about all these fun ideas, these 365 ways that I really hoped parents were going to take about 4 or 5 years to even get through that book, because you can't do that every day. But we have to give ourselves grace. There are days that it's going to be really tough. We might be snappy with the kids all day long. It might not be a good day. But our children are going to be able to remember all those things together. They're going to remember more of the good days, we hope. And at the end of the day, if we've had a bad day, we got to give ourselves grace and know, you know what? We get to start all over again tomorrow. Thank goodness mercies are new every morning.
Yeah, I love that. And I loved how when you talked about writing a calendar, I don't know if that's in the book that you just came out with, but when you talked about that with Focus on the Family, how you would jot down different days on the calendar and different fun things like, you are great, happy National Cheese Day or whatever. And just those little things go a long ways.
That's exactly right. I had the most fun doing that, and would spend some nights in November and December doing that. And that was always their January 1st gift. Each one of them got a calendar to put in their room. And that way, you know what, if I did have a bad day, they could glance up at that calendar and think, you know what, Mommy does really love me, even though she was a little grouchy today, because look at how many times she told me just on this calendar right here.
Yeah, I love that. Just taking the things that you have. So, well, Julie, I am so excited about baking a gingerbread house with our grandkids. The book is absolutely adorable. You have several educational books, and sometimes I don't think people know that you had a master's in child development, and then you were a public school teacher, and then homeschooled all of your kids. So you've had quite a full child experience. So with all those different things,
God's been so good, for sure.
Where can people find you, Julie? Sorry.
I have a website that I'm not super active on. It's just JulieLavenderWrites.com. But I am very active on Facebook and Instagram, Julie Lavender, and then Julie Lavender Writes on Instagram. And love talking with people there, and I'm very active there, and I love meeting new people. And I do enjoy so much about my writing, talking to writers, talking to homeschoolers, talking to moms. And I would love to chat with new people. It is almost time to bake gingerbread houses. That's right, because it's a process. I try to get them baked ahead of time so that when my family comes back to see me, they're all put together, and then they get to decorate them. So I can't believe it's almost time for that again.
Actually, I told my daughter-in-laws, please save some of the Halloween candy out for decorating gingerbread houses.
Yes, and that's my tip for people. Right, that's my tip for people who do them every year. After Christmas, when they put all that Christmas candy on sale, that hard candy will keep if you put it in like a tub or something, a old plastic tub, and it keeps. And I buy it on sale the previous year and then pull it out before that.
That's a good idea. So, well, we are enjoying the smell of Christmas, the smell of the seasons changing, and the season of motherhood, womanhood, or grandmotherhood. Whatever season you're in, be intentional. Thank you, Julie, so much for joining us on the Biscuit Book Club. This has been great, and I feel like we could just, pour a glass of milk and just keep nibbling here on some of these topics. But we're going to have to go. Next week, we'll be talking with more guests and more books. And, Shelley, it's been fun.
Until next week, keep reading and keep it cozy, y'all. Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's Biscuit Book Club with Marcy and Shelley. Be listening next week at the same time for great encouragement and a challenge for what God has for your life on the Biscuit Book Club on Joy 620 WRJZ.